Hey guys, it's Book of Katherine. Welcome to my channel. So if you guys are new to my channel, then you may have not heard that my husband and I are transplants from California to the East Coast. So, and we did that by choice. So we did a 38 state road trip, and I have been to about 48 states now, but we did a really big road trip around the United States, and it was long. And when we came back, one of our friends asked us, do you know where you want to live now? And we just kind of stared at her and we were like, what the heck are you talking about? And she's like, well, you're not born where you're supposed to live. And we were like, no, we didn't know that. And then we thought about it, like we still had about, 300 miles to go because it's California, it's huge, And at that time, before we left, I was traveling about 2,200 miles a week to teach and consult in California. So by day, I was a business consultant working with generational training with businesses and also doing some PR consulting that always ended up coming into the generational training. I always ended up consulting with something else and PR, and it always ended up being on the other end of it. And then at night, I would be doing my other teaching wherever I was. I would always pick up classes. And that was great because I loved teaching dance. So I, did a lot of things. And that's what creatives do. We teach everything. So then there was that time when she asked, and it just kind of blew our minds. And we thought about that whole long trip home. And we just realized, we had been talking as we went around the country, people would ask us what our experiences were like. And what it convinced me of, I'll tell you what it definitely convinced me of. It definitely convinced me of our need for when we vote for the president, what is it? The Electoral College. It convinced me of the need for the Electoral College for sure. Like if everyone says they want cultural diversity, well then they're definitely for the Electoral College. I finally understood why they did that because every state is so different. Like you cross the state line, it's different. And I told every young person we saw, I was like, you have to do a road trip because they'd always be like, oh, we so want to do that. And I was like, do it, and do it while you're young. Because young people don't understand. Once they get into a job, once you get in a job, you really can't travel. I mean, parents allow them to travel. They give them money, they want them to live a retirement lifestyle. But, their parents' money is going to run out sometime. And then they're going to be trapped and they're going to have a career and they're going to think it's going to be miserable for them. You have to travel while you're young, do it on your own dime or whatever. Do it in the summers, when you're in college or whatever. Though I highly recommend you don't actually go to college anymore. I say do it online and then get out and travel as much as you can, and be smart about it. Get street smart, learn, self-defense and things like that. Learn to be aware of your surroundings. So anyway, but we did this whole trip and we were talking about the whole way down, and we realized when people had asked us what things were like, we would tell them and we'd be like, man, California really made us think the rest of the country was like California. And California loves to say, where we go, the rest of the country goes too. And we were really being like, wow, we really hope the rest of the country doesn't go like California because California was really falling apart. And we noticed it big time. And it's not just California. It's California and it's Oregon and it's Washington. And the moment we got back to the West Coast, because we did the whole West Coast too, the moment we hit it, it was bam, culture shock, big time culture shock. The moment we hit that West Coast, everything came flooding back. It's just the child abuse and the addictions and everything. It was just this massive hit. And a lot of it is because there's a whole bunch of reasons, and it was a great cultural study for us. So I guess I want to share some of those reasons for you, because when we're out here, they're like, why are you here? Don't you love the weather out there? And of course, I'm like, no, because I'm kind of allergic to sun. We kind of love the weather out here, and my husband loves it too. It was kind of funny. I got really, really sick this week. I got really sick, and he had to stay home with me for a couple days. And he opened the window. It's all awful outside, and we were both like, oh, nice weather. And I was like, wow, we are so not meant for California. Not everyone's meant for the place that they were meant to be born in. And the thing is that you don't realize this, but for generations before the 2000s, before the internet came along, people used to get up, go out, leave their homes, go find a college. It was find the college that you like. It used to be the same way. Go find the town that you like. And you hear it all the time in Dear Abby. You hear all the time, if you ever read Dear Abby, like my mother used to force Dear Abby on us as a kid. And the one thing that got me after I got married was that, like, one of the towns I had to live in California with my husband, we moved a lot. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. It was like Stepford Wives, and I hated every minute living there. And I would read these articles, and these women moved to a place that her husband had to be. And Dear Abby would always be like, well, you just have to suck it up, and you have to adjust to the place you're in. And a wife would be like, it's awful. And I was like, no, like both people have to be happy. Every city's different. If you are both not making it there, there is such a thing as not being happy in the place that you're in. Sometimes you don't fit that's why the Electoral College exists, because every state is so different. Every city is so different, though. With Agenda 21, every city's becoming the same. They're not just, they're saying gentrification, but it's not. They're making every park look the same, every single bike path look the same, every tree look the same. There's no difference between all of them. They all look the same. They're making a one world government, and it looks absolutely, like, I hate it, because now our downtown area, which we loved because it didn't look anything like California, they're building it up. They're changing all of the McDonald's. They're changing all of the Wendy's. They're taking away all of the red brick, and they're changing all to look exactly like California. We hate that. They're changing the Walmart. They're changing it. They're making it all inside to look like, and we used to love the difference. We used to love that. And I'm like, everything's becoming the same. I hate living. I like the differences between each place. I like driving from one town to another and feeling like I'm in a different town. I like that difference. I love it. And the globalists don't want that. They want us all living in the same place. It's awful. So anyway, but that's the big thing, is that you're made to be in a different place. Cultures are different. And for us, California culture had been going, for us, not a place for us. And we really felt it when we came back. And this is really the difference. And we were like, well, where would we want to live? And we really were like, well, we were happiest on the East Coast. And seriously, when we looked for jobs, we looked all the way up and down the East Coast, like Florida, all the way up to Maine. We were looking the whole place. Well, actually, yeah, not quite Maine as much. I can't remember why, but just like all the way up and down, like the East Coast. We didn't really like have a preference or whatever. I mean, there were states, but we didn't want to be picky. We were just like, let's see what's out there. But it was really just the East Coast was the one we were just like, we felt the happiest. And I think part of that's because we're near an ocean. We were really happy. We really love the Outer Banks. Like, I was upset because I was like, we were never told about the Outer Banks. Like, that's where the pirates were. That's like Blackbeard and everything. You would think we'd be told about something as magnificent. It's like a national treasure as magnificent as the Outer Banks. And California never even told us about it. It's just as precious. And we ran into it on accident. Like, literally, we got on a ferry. We were just driving. We got on a ferry on accident. Like, we woke up the next morning. There's a ferry. We had nowhere else to go. We got on it. And we're like, is that land? And it was a buoy. We were on that thing for 2.5 hours, and the machines were broken. We had no food. We were like, oh, we were so stuck. And we got out there. We were on an island that had no road access. Oh, it was very interesting. Oh, it was so great. We had such a great road trip. It was so wonderful because we really tried to do it without a map, which is totally against our nature. Totally against our nature. We really tried to do it, but of course we were very well traveled. Like, don't do that. Do not do that unless you're well-traveled and well-versed. Like, plan. If you've never done a road trip before, you need a plan. You need to learn how to read directions because the South doesn't have signs. Like, they don't have signs. Like, we so easily California has a sign like every half mile they have a sign. They're like, you are going here and you are going here and you're going here and here and here. No, the South has and it's not built around, roads are built in between the cities. Like in California, everything's built along the roads. So you get in the South and we were just like, we'd expect a sign telling us that the city was coming up. And no, the city would be like an hour behind us. And we're like, where was the sign? No. Things are built differently there. And then the North was so different. We thought it would be, oh my gosh. So you just learn. And it was so good. But you have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to talk and listen. Jordan Peterson really teaches you how to listen. And you just learn so much. Like, one of the things we learned, we ran into like a submarine guy that was there during the Bay of Pigs, and everyone was just walking by him. He was standing there ready to answer and any questions. He was just standing there. And everyone was families, young kids just walking past him. No one asked anything. My husband and I were the only one to stop and ask him questions. And when we did, we found out he was in a sub during the Bay of Pigs. Do you understand how much information we got out of that guy? He was kind of like, do you really want to know? And we were like, yeah, we want to know. Yeah, we want to know. And now we have precious gold. That's going to be gone in a little bit. Listen. Anyway, so California was turning more and more like that. Like, anyway, so the best way I can describe it is like, well, one is like, we kind of, everything's fast food there, right? And we kind of lived on fast food forever. And we hadn't had like a fast food order done right in like 2 years. Like, it was always wrong. Like, we'd ask for Diet Cokes and they'd give us Cokes. And they would always rush you through. So we'd be like out and then we'd be like, crap, it's Cokes. And you have to go all the way around. And then they get upset with you. And you're just like, but you did it. Or you'd ask for this kind of a burrito. And then they would put onions in it. And you were like, I asked for it without onions. And you could not get an order right there. Like basic things like drive-through service could not be done right. Could not be done right. Streets are filthy. Everything's filthy. Like, everything's nasty and gross. Okay, here's a big one. All right, so guys and girls don't date. Like, addiction's so bad there because high-speed internet arrives so fast there. Like, you know who's pushing high-speed internet? Like, I'm an insider. I guess I know. Maybe you guys don't know. But high-speed internet is being pushed by the porn industry. So it's so fast there. And, you know, the guys, you know, the average age for porn addiction is 7. Like, that's the age they're trying to get them at. And they get them at the age of 7. You know, the internet, if you think of Monopoly, they say, oh, Monopoly, ages 5 and up or whatever. What age do you think the internet is? What age do you think the internet is safe for kids? Like, I know, and my husband knew of private schools when the internet came around. Every single Christian private school that he knew of, every single private Christian school, when the internet came out, within 1 year, was dealing passcodes for internet porn. Every Christian private school. That's what they traded. They didn't trade cards. They didn't trade Playboy magazines. They traded internet porn. That's what they dealt in, was internet porn passcodes. And that was back in the mid-90s. And they get hooked, and it drives you deeper and deeper and deeper. So then in California, the young men travel in packs. You will see the young men travel in packs. I can't remember the last time I saw a guy and a girl holding hands there. I can't. I can't. When I got to the East Coast, I was shocked to see it. We got to our town, and there was a couple holding hands that wasn't 80. And I grabbed my heart and I held on to my husband and I was like, I'm so glad we moved. I'm so glad we moved. They travel in packs, like hunting packs. The women are around, but but you guys in California know this. Go to Target and it'll be a grandma and it'll be the young girl, but she'll have a kid and the grandma will be taking care of the kid, holding the kid's hand, and the girl will be dressed up all like Gucci with the high heels and the bling and everything like that, and the girl will be on her phone and then totally ignoring the kid. And the grandma will be so weary and so tired, and so she'll be being sucked dry of money, sucked dry of her inheritance. She'll be the one working. She's the one working 3 jobs to pay for her daughter, to pay for her granddaughter. And then the boys will walk by like, you know? So the girl is just in there. All she does is go clubbing to get banged by a guy. These guys just go out hunting to go banging the girls, but never get in a relationship. They wouldn't know a relationship if it hit them across the head. And all these kids are being abused because they're being neglected. I can't remember the last time I saw an adult have an actual conversation with the kid. What do they do with these kids? The kids just go, I want, I want, I want. And then they emit these high, screeching, pierced, huge, and even our college-educated friends had kids, when they had kids, and they're just like, aha, they're making that noise now. And we'd be like, are you kidding me? No different than monkeys, no civilization. They just pick it up from the other kids. And when they get into a schoolroom, the teachers teach them not to do it. And I'm just like, yeah, because there's discipline. But the parents are just like, oh, they do it. And it's just this monkey screeching, and you cannot go shopping without hearing piercing throughout the entire store just to get whatever the hell it is they want. And the parents, what do? They just go here, 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 and just buy off the kid. The kid will just be pulling stuff off the thing. I'll never forget when we went on that road trip. We went on that road trip and where were we? Was it Oklahoma no, Texas. And this huge hurricane or something cyclone was coming by. And that was it. We had got bitten. We were not used to bugs. We weren't used to bugs. And we'd gone camping, and I woke up and I had all these bug bites across my head. And I was like, bug repellent. I remember that. Bug repellent. Go to a sports store. We went to a sports store. We went to buy the bug repellent, and the kid was like, I want, right? And went for the thing. And I don't know who it was. There were two adults. I have no idea who they were because it wasn't obvious for once. And the guy or the girl or somebody said, I don't know. I kind of feel like lasagna. What do you think? To the other adult. And the other adult went, lasagna. And the kid went, lasagna. And the kid put the thing back. And I looked at my husband and he looked at me and we were like, and that's what we saw for the rest of the states. We didn't see it anywhere else. Kids just yanking stuff off and parents just buying it, going, okay, 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 just shut up, just shut up. That's neglect. That's neglect. That's neglect. I had to study it when I was a teacher. You freaking buy your kid off to shut them up? That's neglect. You wonder why they're so chubby? Because the parents are buying them off? Do you remember when it came out? That a kid age 2, their favorite food was the average favorite food for a kid at the age of 2, back in like 2004, was French fries? That's neglect. We're supposed to be so advanced and so educated and know all the facts, and French fries and ho-hos, and I just want my kid to be happy? It is the absolute destruction of their happiness. I am just watching those kids go around, and now all those parents, not one of them has 2 parents in the home. You know how the homes are built over there? You can't find a single housing tract in California where there aren't 1 million cars on the street. Everyone's fighting over parking in California because every single urban housing development, they don't show you this on the news, but every single urban housing development, every single one it looks like you are in Mexico. Do you know why? It looks like you're in Mexico because every single driveway has 3 cars and trucks, and every single car has 1 million cars long. You know why that is? Because every house has at least 3 generations in it. You know why? Because the kid went out and got 3 kids or whatever, and the 3 kids went and spent all of the parents' money because the parent couldn't say no. And then the parent lost their job, and then the parent went and moved their kids into the grandparents' home. And so none of the 3 kids have a job. They're unwilling to work. They just want to be online. They totally chump. Oh my God. My husband's last engineering firm that he consulted for, oh, you guys, the last one he consulting for, they decided to hire young people. They decided to hire young people to save money. They decided, because you know why? I think it's because all the older engineers were leaving California because they realized they weren't getting a pay raise since '93. So they decided to hire all these people who were college grads out. And do you know what those guys did? Do you know what all the young people did? All the young males, they didn't have any women because, of course, women didn't want to do these. They have all the advantages. They have all the things. But none of the women, maybe they just don't want to be around these kids. I really don't blame them. You know what these little guys did? They went through and took $750,000 machines, and they're like, look, let's make them bounce. Bounce, 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 bounce. And they said exactly what David Hogg said. You know what David Hogg said? I found film of him working in an old folks home. And he's like, these old folks, they like to learn off of books, whereas our generation likes to experiment and learn. And I was like, the last time I heard of anything experimenting and learning was apes. Like, you learn off the backs of books. That's because books contain 2,000 years worth of knowledge that came before you. Just experimenting like that, that's just apes. That's what the apes did. The experimenting, that's apes. Apes are doing the same thing. They're experimenting. And these kids said the same thing. They worked with these older engineers, and the older engineers were like, there's so much we can learn from the guys who came before us. We stand on the shoulders of the greats. And the kids were like, I don't think so. The greats are nothing. I'm going to learn it myself. I'm going to learn it on my own. Scratch them. I'm going to create it myself as they're bouncing $250,000 machines. That's what's going on in California. That's what's going on in California. But now it's happening out here. I'm working with companies. I'm working with some companies where they're trying to get engineers and they don't want to drive 40 minutes. They're going like, that's too much of a drive. And I'm like, for a good job, they don't want to drive 40 minutes. In California, people drive 2.5 hours for a good job. The older generations do, not the younger generations. You know what the younger generations do? There are younger generations in engineering. They are earning 60 grand a year. Because they're really good at asking for a lot of money. The younger girls don't. The younger girls ask for half of that. I found that out. The younger girls go in and ask for half of what the men do. That is not the men's fault. That's the girls' fault. They ask for half of what the men do. Ladies, if you don't want to do that, read Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office 101. That'll solve your problems. That does a lot of it. But that's not the men's fault, the fact that they go in there and ask for twice as much as you do. And they go, oh, is that too much? And then they ask for less right in the interview. I'm like, no. So they go in there and they ask for half, but these guys go in and ask for a ton of money, and then they say and then they're awful, but they go in there and they say that they live in their parents' home, and they tell their parents that they can't afford anything, but really they're wearing Prada belts. They say they can't afford to move out, even though they're making 60 grand. Do they tell their parents they're making 60 grand? No. And their parents just believe them. I was just like, it's pathological liars everywhere. Pathological lying is like California's #1 game. Like, I just was like, narcissism is like the name of the game. And you know why narcissism is the name of the game in California? Because narcissism comes from looking in the mirror. Narcissism comes from looking in the mirror. It's vanity. Vanity. And California is nothing if not vain. Nothing if not vain. No one tells them they aren't the cat's meow, because that's what states media does. Like, you are it. You're it. Young kids are everything. But the people who are tired, beat up, downtrodden, you should see those poor old people. They own all these rentals. That's the other thing, you guys. When we would rent a house, do you know how much you had to spend to rent a home? It was like $4,000 to move in a home. You know why? Like I said, we moved a lot. We go and we move into every place, every single, and I kid you not, in the last 6 years, 100% of the homes, 100%, the screens, pow, punch through, the blinds, broken, just sliced through and broken. And they would charge you $4,000 because they knew, like, the carpets would have people would park their bikes indoors on the carpets. Like, the things that you should look up some rental pictures of what people do to their homes in California. And here's the last thing I'll leave you with. I never paid attention to illegal immigration. I'll leave my immigration thing up here when I post it, if I ever remember to post it. I did finally do a thing on immigration here, because I'm all for immigration. I'm all for diversity. If you let the whole world in with equal opportunity, that's what I'm for. Unfortunately, only 25% of the world is allowed in. The whole world is not allowed in. The Democrats only want 25% of the world allowed in. I'm not for that. I want equal opportunity for everyone. So yeah, I want it changed. Sorry. I'm sorry that they're lying to you about something else again. I'm sorry about that. But I know a lot of brilliant engineers around the world, and they are not allowed in. You know people who haven't been allowed in? That's the reason why. Because the Democrats don't want smart people in. I'm like, sure, let poor people in if everybody else gets a fair shake at it. So watch my immigration thing, if I have it up yet. Oh God, where was I at? Oh, the final thing. I never paid attention to legal immigration until it started becoming a topic and I started doing research and learning the facts. And I realized that when I got out of college, do you know I couldn't find a job? Like, I could not find a job. I had to move back out because someone in the family was sick and I had to go and I had to leave all the opportunities that I had and I had to go back to an area. And do you know what? I didn't realize it until all this became a topic. But everyone I was able to dance, right? I was able to dance. And every single job, every single dance teacher job was taken by someone who is an illegal immigrant. And I mean, I danced with them and everything. And they would like show, they'd be like, I'm illegal. And they got kicked out 5 times. They just crossed back over. And they taught at the most beautiful establishments and everything like that. And they just kicked out. They just walked right back over. They had families here and they had girlfriends here and they had everything. But I remember being frustrated because I couldn't get a job teaching everywhere. And I was like this pro dancer. But they didn't ever hire me because they'd have to pay me. They'd have to pay me minimum wage, and they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to file any taxes. They didn't have to file anything. Why do that when they could file illegal? You know where they did hire white people? Where they would have hired me was in Hollywood. Oh, in the rich places, in the liberal places, that's where they don't do it. But everywhere else in the urban places, they would hire the legal immigrant. And I was like, that's why I remember that. I remember being frustrated because, and it was in all the nice hotels, nice establishments, nice things or whatever. And I remember I'd partner with them. I'd do everything. I was just as good, if not better. But they'd never, ever, ever hire anyone who was a U.S. citizen because they could get such a great deal on the illegal immigrants. And I remember I was like there's a whole, like 6 generations locked out of an entire industry. The entire dance industry was locked out because we were in California and they would just come back over the border because there was no border, and I never thought about it. And I wanted those jobs so bad, and people want to be in those jobs, but they just wouldn't hire. They just wouldn't do it, and they get scooped up and they go, and I had nothing against it until I realized, and I had to go. I remember I even had to register at the unemployment line. They were like, what the hell are you doing here with a resume like that? And I just was like, I seriously cannot get work. And that was a while ago, you guys. And I just never thought about it. And now it's even more. And I'll include some links below because it's not white people who are pissed, you guys. It's not white people pissed. I'll include links below. And there's not a single white face in the links below that are complaining at the LA County Board. It's not. Because they are diverting funds from trash. They're diverting all the city funds to go towards legal funds. And there's a reason why. It's called payoffs. And they say it. They say it down below. It's never what you think, you guys. It's in the nuances. Learn the nuances. And you know what? It wasn't until I watched those LA County Board meetings that I realized, God, I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about, and now I even think about, God, is that why over here on the East Coast, everyone gets a pay raise? Everyone on the East Coast gets a pay raise every year. But the East Coast isn't on the border of Mexico. No one in California's gotten a pay raise since '93. And that's what Ann Coulter is saying. She's saying that illegal immigration keeps wages down. That's why the Koch brothers and that's why the DNC is arguing for the lobbyists, because it keeps wages down. And I'm just like, oh my God, California hasn't seen a wage increase since 1993. So yeah, we got the hell out. And we've loved it every day since. People treat each other better. God, even the national parks there, you guys, even the national parks. The moment it's 8 a.m., bam, the mariachi music goes on. Bam, and they blast it so loud you can hear it for about 30 miles away. Bam, baja, and then they smile and laugh at you because you wake up and you're in your tent and you stroll out and they're laughing. They point and laugh. They think it's funny that they wake up the entire campsites for 30 miles wide. And I never thought anything about it. I never, ever thought anything about it. But we had to stop going camping because we're no one's civilized there anymore. Like no one just tries to be quiet for each other and plays the music at only the sight hears it. And it's just, and so when we left, someone asked us what it was like. Oh, and I did not mention the worst thing. You know what really broke it for us was the dogs. Every neighborhood has howling, yelping, screeching dogs that hears for miles that go 24/7. Just screeching, yelping dogs. Barking, howling, screeching. And someone asked me, and I remember when I was leaving there, like, what is it? And I just kept trying to explain it. And I finally said, I feel like I'm living in a third world country. And then I was doing research recently and I was like, God, I hope that's not the reason why. But I hear about La Raza and I remember teaching inner city. And I remember that all the housing developments around were putting out the Mexican flag. And I was like, why would they do that? Why would they not put out the American flag? Why the Mexican? Like, I don't understand. But now I do. But that's funded by Soros. They want us divided, you guys. They want us divided. They want us divided. I don't want to be divided. I want to be at a campsite that wants to work together, not try to hurt other people. Like, I don't mind music playing. Just, I don't do it. I don't use it as a weapon. I don't take joy in hurting other people. I don't do that. It's not a whole group. It's just individuals. But the whole California's a great place to visit for us. That's all I'm saying. If you want to know why we left, that's why we left. And I don't miss it. I don't miss it at all. I don't miss it one bit. I don't miss it one bit, especially with what's going on. God damn. Sorry. It's gorgeous here. It's civilized. Because people obey the law. Peace out.